Yeah, I mean this one's just...
16 has joined us at Yeovilton. Back to the Fleet Air Arm then with the Maritime Roll demo, the last chance at Yeovilton Air Day to see the Lynx in action. They will be getting the aircraft for the Jungly Assault into the air, ready for their part in the finale, after which the Royal Jordanian Falcons with their 4 extra EA300 unlimited aerobatic aircraft take centre stage. A very noisy penultimate item after that, courtesy of the Royal Air Force Eurofighter Typhoon, and then the magnificent spectacle, the traditional show closer at Yeovilton, that is the Jungly Assault, the Commando Helicopter Assault, a mix this year of Merlins, of Army Air Corps Wildcats, the Army Air Corps Apache, Royal Navy Lynx, a very impressive spectacle with which to bring to a close the flying programme here at the 2016 Royal Naval Air Station Yeovilton International Air Day. We'll be bringing the show to a close, incidentally, at 4:30 this afternoon. So a fully 5-hour flying programme, taking into account the half-hour respite over lunch. A nice chance to recharge your... HMA2s.
So as the aircraft come over the end of the runway, you can see the difference between the venerable Lynx and the new Wildcat. They look the same size, and that was purely on purpose. It was a one-for-one replacement. They wanted the aircraft to be fit in the same hangar, use a lot of the same equipment, so we can keep doing our operations around the world. The Wildcat on the outside of the formation with that very distinctive T-shaped tail, white flashing lights, but very similar looking. Big differences are that the Lynx has that. The slower the aircraft is, the more the wind affects it. So as you see the pitch taking off, it's going off into wind, it's using that wind to his advantage. But you see what a manoeuvre aircraft, how much power it's using, but that wind coming against it may allowing him to keep his ground speed really slow. It's really impressive.
This then Rich Goodwin in his muscle biplane, his Pitts S2S Special. A very different beast from the earlier Pitts Specials. And this one with a truly outstanding power-to-weight ratio, and while the Royal Navy may have retired its Sea Harriers, we still get a bit of fixed-wing hovering action in today's display, courtesy of Rich hanging it on the prop there. This routine is a really stunning mix of slow flying, and it doesn't get much slower than that. I don't know what sort of ground speed he was doing there, and really dynamic, unlimited aerobatic manoeuvres. And so, going into the main body of his display here, we have Rich Goodwin on the Pitts S2S Special. When I say this aircraft has outstanding performance, this is no pit special that you could buy off the shelf. This is a very heavily modified one indeed, all with performance in mind. At Richard's disposal, an 8.5 litre 6-cylinder. Incredible to think when seeing this aircraft, one that puts on one of the most stunning aerobatic displays you'll see anywhere, that the original pit special first flew as long ago as 1944. Of course, in those days it had much less power at its disposal. It was in the 1960s when the aircraft really began to sweep the board in the aerobatic competition. Turning away from us with a bit of negative G. What a fantastic sequence from Rich Goodwin in his pits. One more knife edge run. Flag colour scheme new to the aircraft for this year, really showing up extremely well against those threatening skies in front of us.
That sequence will have been thought out and rehearsed many, many times, especially with this wind down the runway. It's pushing him down over to the left of the crowd, so he's constantly got to fight that all the time. So he's adjusting his manoeuvres every time he flies it slightly differently to try and push that aircraft back into crowd centre so that you can see it in the middle of the crowd. It really is very well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the 2016 Royal Navy Helicopter Display Team, also known as the Black Cat. Into that wind as they fight it. So this year's team, Lieutenant Commander Dave Lilly and Lieutenant out onto the B-axis. So on the display circuit, we plan that on every airfield there's a standard display setup. The B-axis is a vertical line that runs from crowd centre all the way out away from the crowd. The display line runs parallel to the crowd line, so they plan their manoeuvres on that T shape. So running out the B-axis, a synchronised crossing wing over. Now wing over is a tactical manoeuvre. You change your speed to height, you turn the aircraft as the aircraft is slow, and then you dive back down using that height and converting it back to speed so you can run in towards an enemy and get your weapons focused on him. Bring together a very close pass at crowd centre, and the aircraft can reform into that formation of echelon left. You might see the aircraft on the left fighting against that wind as he tries to get back into the centre of the crowd. As I said, the slower the aircraft, that much more work the pilots have to do to fight into that wind. But they rejoin in echelon left and coming back in towards the crowd. So the Wildcat helicopter, brand new to the Royal Navy, taking over from the venerable Lynx. As we said, the airframe and the engine have been much upgraded, but the avionics inside are world class. Wildcat can do what the Lynx did in 2 hours, Wildcat can do in 10 minutes. Phenomenal radar underneath, 360 degrees at about 50 miles. All tied into a state-of-the-art computer system, tactical system that's working to provide information to the aircrew so they can make those decisions on, in the air, what they need to do. flight. You don't see this very often, very in the black gas display. But the aircraft pitching nose down, stopping that speed in the swing boat maneuver. Running towards. Get your cameras ready for a good opportunity to see the underside of the aircraft as they come left and right at the crowd line. As I said, the Wildcat very distinctive with that T-shaped tail. These are very different from the Lynx. It adds extra stability and high-speed flight for those aircraft. But at the end of the tail, they've also got aerials, lots of radios, lots of communication. And another demonstration of the tactical maneuver, converting speed to height, turning the aircraft, then high pitch up. Coming together into nose overs. And then crossing brake to head away from the crowd again. This is counterfeiting with the Wildcat. And it's a direct crossover from the Lynx. As soon as the Lynx nice and tightly across, running in. Cameras ready for the final brake, to cross the crowd centre. Everybody giving them a wave as they come out to crowd left and a final wave, flight 2 rejoins flight 1 over to crowd left.
They also have a Tornado IDS in the static park. Well, here is one of the most sensational shapes in the sky taking the runway, not to display yet, to go and take off and hold prior to its slot, which is coming up at just before 12 noon, in fact, will be the aircraft's display. It is the de Havilland Sea-Vixen FAW2, the flagship of the Fly Navy Heritage Trust, who have, of course, as we've been saying, launched their new brand, Navy Wings, here at the show, and we'll be hearing much more about that, not least from Fly Navy Heritage Trust Ambassador Frederick Forsyth during the Sea-Vixen's display a little later on. But for now, a first chance of the day to see this aeroplane in the air. And what a machine to see here, because of course Yeovilton was for so many years the home of the Sea-Vixen. During time was when massed ranks of those aircraft flew from this Royal Naval Air Station. Today this is the only airworthy.
Obviously the cloud also has another effect on it. If you get low cloud, obviously some of the displays have to adjust and come flat, or they have to cancel it also. But we've got some really nice breaks in the cloud today, so we should get full displays in for everything.
Indeed so. Of course there are various limitations, and from the classic jet aircraft on the programme, the MiG-15 and the Sea-Vixen, we will be seeing only flat displays, but hopefully for the likes of the Red Arrows, the Typhoon towards the end of the show, we should see full aerobatic displays if the conditions cooperate. Not such an issue for the Rafales. They don't use quite as much height during their display, but we'll see how we go as we go through the afternoon. There's the Fighter Collections Corsair rolling out after its trip to the chalk likes of the Embraer Super Tucano and the Beechcraft 86 Wolverine. Indeed, another aeroplane optimised for those sorts of roles, the Textron Airland Scorpion, can be seen in the static park here. Well, this is an aircraft that fulfilled those tasks in the past. There was a view to it being returned to military use in more recent times in order to fulfill them again. The markings on this one, those are the aircraft's look for this season, because the Bronco demo team has taken on a Tiger theme for 2016. The aircraft now lined up to the left-hand end and about to get airborne in very short order into its display, because short takeoff and landing capabilities an important part of this aircraft's attributes. Here it goes then, the North American OV-10B Bronco. A pair of Garrett T76 turboprops of some 715 shaft horsepower each. The aircraft came about as a result of a joint service requirement between the US Air Force, Navy and Marine Corps of the early 1960s for a light-armed reconnaissance aircraft. And very rigorous requirements they were too. It had to be a twin crew aeroplane, capable of withstanding between +8 and -3 G. It had to have sufficient takeoff and landing performance to fly from aircraft carriers, a top speed of 350 miles an hour. It had to be able to carry 2,400 pounds of cargo, or 6 paratroops or stretchers. Were employed as forward air control aircraft. They directed strikes by fast jet attack machines, AC-47 gunships and ground artillery. They provided post-strike damage assessment, and they escorted C-123 provider tactical transports on the so-called ranch hand defoliation missions. It was hit by an SA-7 surface-to-air missile. Bennett had to ditch the Bronco, which was a hazardous undertaking with its high wing. His Marine Corps forward air controller in the back seat got out, but Bennett lost his life. In total, 81 Broncos were lost in Vietnam. The Air Force decided not to take its Broncos to war in the Gulf, but the type carried on in service with numerous operators. For example, the US State Department's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement has civilian-operated Broncos for counter-drug missions. And as I said, an upgraded version was evaluated under a US Air Force requirement known as Combat Dragon for a light-armed warplane for potential use in Afghanistan, though no procurement resulted. And here we see another of the Bronco's attributes and short landing abilities being displayed as the aircraft comes into touchdown at the end of a display that really showed off the agility of this multi-purpose machine from the Bronco demo team based at Kortrijk Wevelgem in Belgium. Tony De Bruyne with the North American OV-10B Bronco. First look at that very distinctive supermarket trolley style four-wheeled cast-ring undercarriage.
Yeah, they're now undercarriage designed specifically for the pitching rolling decks. So this was a maritime helicopter from the outset, designed sort of as part of the Scout, the Army Scout helicopter. And this is the Navy offshoot, but that is the undercarriage designed to keep that aircraft nice and safe on a pitching deck, allow it to manoeuvre as it needs to get the aircraft airborne and to land.
Together, the wheels can be locked if required, but of course it always has to hover taxi. You can't ground taxi on those wheels.
Well, yes. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I think it's probably to do with the actual control that the aircraft has. They're not powered wheels, so if they want to manoeuvre that aircraft, it would be pretty stressful on all the mechanics if they had to direct them with the rotor blades on the top.
Terry Martin, who operates this aircraft, Dr. Terry Martin, says that the very small tail rotor of the Wasp makes manoeuvring it out of wind quite difficult because there's a lack of rotor authority. That's the case even in fairly moderate winds.
Well, yeah, the purpose of the tail rotors obviously to keep the aircraft straight in the air, so it can fly straight. But it does take quite a lot of power, so if you want a bit more powerful tail rotor, you have to take power to the main rotors, and therefore the aircraft can't hover as well. So it's a compromise on power. So yes, in the early days, you did have underpowered tail rotors, so the aircraft did struggle in cockpit like we have today.
Those early days for the Wasp, exemplified by the first flight, which was in October 1962, as Dave was saying, this was an offshoot of the Westland Scout programme for the Army Air Corps. That was initially a programme headed up by the defunct helicopter with the name of Sea Scout before they settled on Wasp. And it's interesting, this type, in that it has no sonar. It was largely seen as solely a weapon-carrying platform that will be sent and directed towards its target by its parent small ship, by maybe other vessels, or indeed a Wessex HAS-3 anti-submarine helicopter to go and attack an enemy submarine.
Not just to lift the aircraft, to push the aircraft onto the deck. So if you're in a heavy sea state on a pitching rolling deck, you can lower the lever in the pilot's left hand and lower all the way down to the floor of the aircraft, and that will cause the rotor race to push it on, force it onto the deck so it can't get pushed off by the pitching and rolling. And that's, as you see there, that's pretty much what happened there. You push the aircraft straight down onto the ground, and we took that technology, we put it into links, and we still have it in the Wildcat today.
In that case, the Wasp used AS-12 missiles, and the submarine was abandoned. It was the first naval casualty of the conflict, and this particular Wasp wears the colours of an example that flew from HMS Endurance during the Falklands campaign, though this one didn't do so itself.
Final wave pass as the Wasp positions out to cloud right, and there's low pass. Everyone give a wave and a cheer.
A very nice showing of the aircraft from Dr. Terry Martin, who keeps it down at Bath Nashers. Finishing his sequence on the Westland Wasp, HAS-1, and the
invaders were killed. I do remember seeing the Hawker Hunter sitting quite close to me, and the man at the controls was staring out at his friend dying. And he said to me later, if I hadn't put the throttle forward then, I would never have flown again. But he did push the throttle forward, and he gave us the full display in the Hunter. And then of course the Mono was redeveloped and changed and became this extraordinary creature we see before us, the Civics.
Well, thank you, Freddie. That was a memorable day indeed, and tragic. But as you say, the aircraft came on a long way, first to become the Civics and Mark I, flying from carriers in the late 50s, early 60s, and then to the Mark II, which is this variant. And this particular aircraft, XP924, first flew in 1963. Now Simon's just bringing her in from the crowd centre, approaching us and pulling up to show off that beautiful plan form. Freddie, you learned to fly when you were 17, gained your pilot's wings, and you were flying sea vampires, I understand, at the age of 19. Vampires, sea vampires.
I was RAF. That's why I'm very privileged to be here, because my uniform is much, much paler than the Navy uniform. So, yeah, there was a friendly rivalry then between Air Force and Fleet Air Arm. Very friendly. Like the vampire.
Well, as an ex-Commodore Joint Force Harrier, I agree with that. We're partners with the Air Force, and will be for the F-35 in the future. And at the moment, the Royal Navy has got F-18 pilots keeping their hand in at carrier operation.
It was a sobering thought.
Well, it's wonderful to have you sitting with us today.
And I think the Martin Baker Mark IV ejector seat. But it was designed, the seat was designed after the Vampire and wouldn't fit in. So there we go. Never mind. We didn't care in those days. We were 18 and carefree and convinced, as boys are, that Bad things only happen to other people.
Well, there we are. Well, we've got Mark IV seats in the Sea Vixen, and it costs me a lot of money every winter to overhaul them. So it's probably a good moment to say that we need to keep them serviceable, and we really do need contributions from the public to help me fund this aircraft. You can do that by coming onto our new Navy Wings website, navywings.org, and you can sign up there and help support us. Most of us are volunteers, and indeed I'm a volunteer. We're either part-time or, as I say, volunteers. And so we keep the costs of running this aircraft absolutely down. And as she comes in now, she's dirtied up, put the undercarriage down, and she'll do a 360 just to really show off that beautiful shape. And also here those 208 engines.
Sea Venom, and then of course the successor to the Sea Venom, this one, the Sea Vixen.
And of course it was Sea Vampire that Winkle Brown did his first ever jet deck landing on an aircraft carrier. It was quite a wonderful well, that is, he cleans up. I've learned here. Once he's done that, he will reposition to land, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Just watch her now, she comes past at probably 450 odd knots.
Probably more different types of aircraft than any man ever born to fly. So very, very waspish sense of humour, very funny man, and a great man, and died tragically, but well, in his 90s. So a long and good life, and I believe there's going to be a commemorative service for him here soon.
We are indeed. On the 23rd, we're having a memorial service here with a great gathering of aircraft, some of which he flew. And as the Sea Vixen comes into land, I just wanted to mention one other person, and that is the benefactor of this aircraft. Julian Jones is here with us today, and actually it's Julian's birthday, so happy birthday, Julian. Now we better scoot off. The aircraft's coming in order to position ourselves when he taxis in, so I'll hand you back to Ben.
Well, thank you very much, Bill, and thank you very much also to Frederick Forsyth, and above all, thanks to all the supporters, benefactors and so forth of the Flying Navy Heritage Trust, who have done so much to keep this and other naval heritage aircraft in the air for us to enjoy. But it was rejected then when the Royal Navy wanted one. Production for the RAF was taking priority. Here comes the Seafire LF-3C. In Operation Torch, the Allied landings in North Africa, and Grumman Mark. Those earlier Merlin-powered Seafires were pretty effective fighters. This one, the only Merlin-engined Seafire flying. It was built by Westland. It came off their rank. Its wings and reposition in the flying display park that's part of our static display. The Swordfish will be joining it there later. But our next display item is sticking with the naval theme, of course. It's the Royal Navy Raiders parachute team, and Lieutenant Commander Tug Wilson is ready shortly to commence commentary on them.
Hey, the wonder's not working. There we go. Hey, the wonders of mobile phone. They've just called down on one of the mobile phones to the guy in the army suit down the bottom there, and just said to him, it's a bit too, at 5,000 they can't quite see the drop. Don't let me down, Tom, come on. There we go, first man out, there we go, there he is, that's Lieutenant Commander Tom Canty. Oh, and some app music, thanks very much, Ben. So first one out the door, Lieutenant Commander Tom Canty. He's been on the team for 12 years. I don't see any smoke at the moment. Hopefully once he gets himself sorted out, you'll see the flags coming out. And Tom, 3, do so with a very set cadence, the idea being the pilots continue counting on that cadence in their heads, and on the count of 4 they extend their air brakes, and on the count of 6 they retract their air brakes, which enables the 3 aircraft on each wing to drop back at the same rate to form this shape, which depicts the delta wing planform of the Royal Air Force's multi-role combat aircraft. You'll see it displayed here at Yeovilton later on. In from the left with some red and white smoke, this is Typhoon. Second of our new pilots this year used to fly the Typhoon. He is Red 3, Flight Lieutenant Cy Taylor, and he's at the front left of the Typhoon shape. Cy actually started off flying the Tornado GR4, but moved across to the Typhoon, becoming an instructor. Let's give the pilots a big wave, everybody! Once again, upside down at 400 miles an hour and 4G.
Coming right now.
Red 1 is now twisting this loop towards us through 90 degrees in what we call a quarter clover, and you can really see that hammer shape there. So at 6,000 feet, get your cameras ready for the good bit. This is the hammerhead brake. At 70 miles per hour. So cameras ready with red 6 on the left and red 7 on the right. They get ready for their first opposition maneuver. These are the opposition barrel rolls. And 7 there, rolling upside down and the right way up at different stages as they finish the shotgun down to the left. Keep your eyes in that direction now, or you'll turn place to the top right of the heart. We should see red 9 approaching to add a final touch. Here comes red 9 as it starts to draw a spear through this heart. Keeping your eyes on the synchro pair, red 6 left, red 7 right. At 1,000 feet, they're about to come back towards us for their next maneuver. We're calling these the Winkle Rolls.
Hey, that's one.
A dozen times.
Coming right now.
This is the Twister.
Hold in the bank. Now tightening. Out. Rolling. Out.
With the red smoke getting very dizzy there is red 4, who's Flight Lieutenant Mike Bowden. Mike's in his second year with the team. And I'm matching them directly underneath as they come in from the left as they fly the mirror pass. upside down.
8 and 9. Oh, go!
This is the corkscrew.
Coming right now.
Coming right, the following pilots use a lot of rudder to swing the jets out in a pendulum fashion.
Easing up.
Normally, Red Arrow's formations are flown with the odd-numbered pilots on the left and the even-numbered pilots on the right. But in this shape, it's the other way round. Reds 2 and 4 are on the left, and Reds 3 and 5 are on the right. And we're going to swap back to our normal sides, and we do it like this. This is the slalom. 3.5 to 4G finishing off this turn on their normal sides in baffle. Looking straight ahead now to find Jippo.
Go. We are 3 labels.
Over the right-hand hanger, the white smoke is on.
8 and 9.
With his smoke changing from red to white on the right-hand side is red 7 per hour. This is the amazing Jippo Pass.
Hold it, bank now.
It's 2, 3, 4 and 5 change their smoke colour to white. Red 1 now uses red and blue as they finish this second roll. It's 3 times now in opposing 360-degree 6G turns in their final manoeuvre, which is the carousel. Times now notice when they cross at the back, they swap their smoke colour from red to blue and vice versa. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a huge round of applause for the synchro pair. Now looking directly ahead to find Enid being joined by Reds 8 and 9. And you've been watching the Royal Air Force aerobatic team, the Red Arrows!
To highlight the beauty and agility of the Gazelle helicopter.
So here comes the team in from the left for their first pass. Wilf, do talk us through these early manoeuvres.
Well, from the left now, ladies and gentlemen, you can see the lead aircraft, and we're very proud to be here at the Royal Naval Air Station at Yeovilton. You'll see that it's in.
How the team came to be formed?
Well, as Mark has said, quite a few members of the team, including myself and the chap who started this organisation, were all in the Blue Eagles. Many years ago, I flew the Sioux in the Blue Eagles, the Bell 47, and Bruce Stewart, who runs the organisation, was the Lynx display pilot. But today, on the right, we've got Andy Morehouse. And now comes back, round, and they'll be appearing from the left in a minute. The lead aircraft here now is flown by Andy Morehouse, who's a lead flight instructor at Cotswold Helicopters for his day job, and he qualified on helicopters in 2006. He went on to win the British Helicopter Championships in 2009 and 2010. So we're very lucky to have him. So here they come at crowd centre into the hopper. You can see the Gazelle's a very, very sleek lined machine. We call it the E-type Jaguar of the sky. The Blue Army helicopter display team, the Blue Eagles, a few years ago. his day job is flying commercial jets all over Europe.
Both Gazelles now engaged in some coordinated manoeuvring at crowd centre. Of course, the type still very much in British military service, still in use with the Army Air Corps and also with Kinetic at Boscombe Down. And now here, Mark, one of the classic helicopter team manoeuvres, the carousel.
And actually, if you look the way the aircraft are, they lean slightly to the right skid down, but here they go on a crossover, and they'll go to the opposite end, and we'll look to do a wing over. These aircraft are affectionately known as the screaming chicken legs, and the reason for that is obviously the high pitch.
I gather that parts of this display are modelled on the Pusser's Pair duo of the Royal Navy from the 80s and 90s, their two-ship display.
They are indeed. We've modelled this on all our predecessors, not only the Blue Eagles, the Army helicopter display team, but the Sharks, the naval display team. And I think, well, I'm proud to say at the moment that we are the only civilian helicopter display team, because though these aircraft are painted in RAF and naval colours, they are in fact civilianly registered. So here they come, approaching the hover once more. You can see the sleek lines of a Gazelle. It's a beautiful aircraft to fly, and was used a few years ago in all three services for pilot training and also for observation and reconnaissance. And you can see the obvious thing there is that the visibility with that, the canopy, the plastic canopy, the visibility from the helicopter is extremely good. So here we are, they're climbing up.
Right, they're climbing up to around 500 foot. They will turn to face each other and give a little bow. This is quite a difficult manoeuvre, actually flying backwards, because the tail has a tendency to lift up. And to keep it steady is extremely awkward. There they go, and they will have a little spiral around each other. Last year, as the Marines liveried aircraft, we took off 20 layers of paint.
This aircraft reappeared on the display circuit last year, and it's in the markings of a Swordfish from a 20 Naval Air Squadron which participated in the successful attack on the Bismarck. And with me in the commentary box is someone who knows the fish very well indeed, Royal Navy Historic Flight pilot, Lieutenant Commander Simon Wilson. Si, very nice to see you. What we're seeing here is such a special aeroplane. It must be very special for you to fly it as well.
Yes, indeed. It's a great privilege as a air-on pilot to get the opportunity to fly this aircraft. It's the only flying example in the world right now, so it's a unique opportunity to get to fly such a special aircraft.
One of the attributes that really helped keep the Swordfish viable, as it were, through the Second World War, when far more modern aircraft types were available, was its great manoeuvrability, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It had quite low speed, but it's a very manoeuvrable aircraft, and it was very, very capable of doing things that other aircraft types weren't capable of during the war. For example, during the Battle of the Atlantic, it was the only aircraft that was capable of taking off some of the converted oil and grain ships in short distances in pretty horrendous sea conditions.
Yeah, those were the MAC ships, weren't they? The merchant aircraft carriers.
Yes, that's correct. They just took oil and grain ships, cut the superstructure off them, and welded a flat top to the deck, and carried four Swordfish to act as a deterrent for the U-boats.
Of course, that was vital because during the Battle of the Atlantic, the objective was to allow the vital supply convoys to come across the North Atlantic and really keep Britain going during those dark days. And in that, the Swordfish and its crews played a vital role.
Officer historic flight, and those of you that have attended air shows regularly over the last few years will have seen him mainly flying the Sea Fury and also the Sea Hawk in previous seasons. In the central cockpit we've got Commander Matt Taswell, who's been on the flight now for a couple of years, and his background is Lynx and Wildcat helicopters with the Lynx Wildcat Maritime Force. And then in the rear cockpit, almost as old as the Swordfish himself, Chief Petty Officer Andy Vaines, who has started out in Wasp helicopters as a crewman, was a commando helicopter crewman in Wessex and Sea King, and is currently the Chief Air Crewman at 25 Naval Air Squadron, flying Wildcat.
All of them pretty well wrapped up against the cold, I should imagine.
Yes, it's a pretty brutal environment. The pilot's reasonably well protected by the windscreen and the cockpit structure, but the guys in the rear cockpit get the full force of the elements and really feel it. So when they took off in that shower earlier on, they probably got a bit wet.
Yes, and if you think that's tough, of course it's nothing to what they went through in wartime in these aircraft.
Yes, absolutely. We only fly it in fairly temperate summertime conditions in the UK, so today is probably about as bad as it gets for us. If you look now, they're just going to wave at them as they come past. Is going to salute for the ensign fly past, which is a tribute to all the crews that flew the Swordfish and other Fleet Air Arm aircraft during conflicts during the Fleet Air Arm service. And Fleet Air Arm since 1909, engineers, aircrew and other personnel in all conflicts, and act as a living memorial. So just give them a wave. This is their final flyby as they land, to say hello to them.
One of 3 Swordfish that the flight owns, but the only one, as you say, currently flying.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a Mark 1, and it's the only Mark 1 in existence in the world. There's not even any in museums, so it's a very unique aircraft. We've got a Mark 2, and then the Mark 3 is used as a spares donor for the Mark 1 and 2.
But we look forward in due course to seeing a Swordfish pair back on the circuit when LS-326.
So what they did during the war with such an outdated aircraft, it started the war outdated compared to aircraft in service, and it's a real tribute to what those people did and the bravery of the guys that operated it in the hazardous environments that they had to fly it in.
Beautifully flown by Lieutenant Commander Chris Gotka and crew, the Swordfish 1 of the Royal Navy Historic Flight rolling out. The Historic Flight, of course, one of the organisations, along with the Fleet Air Arm Museum and...
My name is Captain David Price, and I'll be your commentator. Today's pilots are Warrant Officer Adam Nash and Captain Blakely, both of which are currently serving frontline pilots from 3 Regiment, Army Air Corps, based out of Watersham Station in Suffolk. They both have operational experience from Afghanistan. Warrant Officer Nash from his tours with 663 Squadron, and Captain Lee from his attachment to the United States Army. Once again, with the help of Event Horizon, we're able to bring you the ever popular pyrotechnics. So please have your cameras at the ready. The Army is the only service that trains both.
Sighted. Engaging with 30mm.
This maneuver is used operationally to allow the optics and 30mm cannon to be constantly positioned on a target in the centre wheel, and as you can see, allows for rapid engagements if required. The Apache flew over 51,000 hours in Afghanistan. That's more than any other British aircraft. They're now using a wing over maneuver to reposition for a gun strafing run. Apache is now using its powerful turbomecha engines to accelerate to 140 knots as they put down that suppressive fire. With their rocket's profile also allows them to manipulate the effect the rockets have at the target.
There is a further enemy position engaging us. Taking evasive action.
Gunship has now pinpointed the second position and are going to end the firefight using one of the laser-guided Hellfire missiles.
0. Gunship tipping in with the laser-guided Hellfire missile.
Roger. Send battle damage assessment.
As the aircraft returns to Crowd Center, the crew will now perform a rapid climb to maneuver the Apache rapidly through what is known operationally as the threat band. This is where aircraft are most vulnerable to small arms fire. The Apache's optics are able to look to 60 degrees down from the horizontal, giving the crew a good field of view to confirm the destruction of the target.
Hello, 0. This is Gunship. That's target destroyed. Out.
Gunship have now ended the engagement using the maneuver for the 2016 season. This is known as the corkscrew. The crew pitched the aircraft to 90 degrees nose up, then rapidly repositioned back to the hover, before pitching to 90 degrees nose down. This shows the immense agility of this 10-ton aircraft, and is one of the most difficult maneuvers to fly. As they exit the corkscrew, they are conducting a 360-degree quick stop to arrive at the hover. The Apache has 4 weapon stations on its pylons. The aircraft can be fitted with either CRB-7 rocket pods, Hellfire missile launchers, or external fuel tanks. And as you can see today, Gunship have opted for a mixture of rocket and missile launchers. Each rocket pod can house up to 19 rockets, and the missile launchers each carry 4 missiles. Both the rockets and missiles can be fired out to ranges of 8 kilometers, whilst a powerful M230 cannon can fire up to a staggering 4,000 meters. As you watch Gunship move right to left, you can see the helicopter's amazing hover performance. The 2 engines each produce 2,300 shaft horsepower, giving the Apache more power than 4 Formula 1 race cars. The pilots are aided with a helmet-mounted monocle. This displays important flight information to the pilot, whilst allowing him to keep his eyes out of the window. If you look to the top of the helicopter, mounted above the main rotor blades, you can see its fire control radar. It scans out to 8 kilometers, detects up to 1,024 targets, prioritizes them, and then provides 16 simultaneous firing solutions through the aircraft's weapon processors. The radar can also be used in a setting called final explosion. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the 2016 Attack Helicopter Display. The aircraft is now reversing backwards to perform a bow to depart. And as it does, we'd of course like to thank the Yeovilton Air Show for inviting us, the awesome Event Horizon team, and of course you, the general public, for your continued support to the British Armed Forces. There are a variety of hugely exciting job opportunities for you in the Army Air Corps, far more than I could do justice in just a 10-minute display. But if you do have any questions, please find a member of the display team or the Army Air Corps engagement team. Thank you.
And thank you very much to the attack helicopter display team for that literally fiery performance with the around in the hold. The Battle of Britain Memorial Flight based at RAF Coningsby in Lincolnshire, one of the busiest flying stations in the RAF, and the home not just to the historic aircraft of the BBMF, but also units operating the Eurofighter Typhoon, which we'll be seeing as the penultimate item in the programme, and one of which is also featured in the static aircraft park here. Most potent multi-role jets, and they come to us courtesy of the French Navy. An aircraft that's in service with both the French Air Force, the Armée de l'Air, and the French Naval Air Arm, the Aéronautique Navale or Aéronaval. Specifically, the pair that we're about to see hail from Flottille 11F of the Aéronaval, based at Landivisiau in Brittany, so long the centre of French Navy fighter aviation. Well, last year we saw the Dassault Super Étendards joining these aircraft. Well, the Super Étendards imminently to be retired, which will leave the French Navy with only one frontline multi-role fighter type, the one that we are about to see in a paired display. About then to roll, we have two examples of the Dassault Rafale Marine. Thus, at the slow, the two Rafales from the right with undercarriage down. Arrestor hooks also down on that pass, having cleaned up, putting the undercarriage up, therefore. The multi-role F3 standard Rafale had its first operational engagement in 2010 as part of Opération Agapon, the second French deployment to Afghanistan, and famously in 2011 these aircraft served in Opération Harmattan, the French contribution to efforts in Libya. Into a tight 360-degree turn in front of us, while the other runs in from the left, once again with carriage and hook pass. Those out of an eventual total of 225 examples being operated. The Charles de Gaulle is habitually deployed with a pair of squadrons of Rafales. Around 35 aircraft would typically be embarked, along with two Northrop Grumman E-2C Hawkeye airborne early warning and surveillance platforms and a pair of helicopters. A tremendously exciting, invigorating contribution once again from the French Navy, coming to an end as they turn a curving final approach for landing. A typically distinctive and charismatic product from the House of Dassault. First example touching down and a spot of aerodynamic braking, keeping the nose high on the landing roll. The second shortly to follow. Flottille 11F, the Aéronautique Navale from Landivisiau, on those two examples of the Dassault Rafale Marine.
Lining up for departure to hold for its display in a few minutes' time. And then out to the right, near the Naval Hawks, you've got Team Orlik, also rolling out in formation for their display after the Corsair.
One side has got Memphis down, the other side has got Sunny Bay.
Important American-built types that equipped frontline squadrons during that time. Of Stephen Gray. And this example painted in the colours of the wartime fleet air arm of the Royal Navy. The distinctive inverted gull wing configuration of the Corsair, resulting from the need to incorporate folding wings for carrier use, while giving the aircraft's huge propeller sufficient ground clearance. Towards an hour.
Votre attention, s'il vous plaît.
The Polish-built MiG-15 UTI of the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron taxiing out. That's a departure to Swansea, and it'll be returning during the display later. B-17 Sally B, meanwhile, running up at the left-hand end of the runway. That also initially has a departure slot to make, in its case to Chalk Valley. So here goes the B-17 then rolling. That'll be returning to us shortly. The first time that aircraft has been with us at Yeovilton for 16 years. In fact, it's spent the last fortnight here as a kind guest of the station in preparation for its display. Indeed, it was the first arrival for Air Day. Now, in from the left then, the Goodyear FG1D Corsair. Goodyear built a large number of Corsairs as the FG1 model, the type's main manufacturer being Chance Vought, and the Vought-built Corsairs designated as F4Us. And this was one of the many American wartime aircraft, and we'll talk about this more in the context of the B-17 when it comes back for its display later, that really had a very important aspect of its history determined by the British. In the case of the Corsair, the US Navy wouldn't qualify it for carrier-borne operations until such time as the aircraft had proved that it could save rockets. The Royal New Zealand Air Force also an exponent of the Corsair in the air-to-ground as well as the air-to-air role. One of the early problems with Corsair was poor visibility out of the cockpit, and that was one of the areas where the Fleet Air Arm came in. It was the FAA that battleship. Into the V. The first having been RAF Fighter Command's Flight Lieutenant James Nicholson during the Battle of Britain. Hampton Gray pressed home an attack against a Japanese destroyer on the 9th of horsepower from the Corsair's Pratt.
Madame Margolaine Luzano-Sanchez, Madame Margolaine Luzano-Sanchez, s'il vous plaît, allez à la portée près de la musée, s'il vous plaît. La portée près de la musée, merci. And anyone would like to go flying themselves today, helicopter 001 is over, well, Adventure is 001, over by the big grey US Air Force C-17 over in the left-hand side of the crowd. You can go flying today in those helicopters. I think it's about £40 a ticket. You can see the airshow from above and see the crowd.
Corsair and all the aircraft being recorded by Planes TV for the official airshow DVD and Blu-ray. If you advance order today, you get to take away a free DVD, Airshow Action 9, with highlights from seasons past. It costs £16.99 plus postage and packing. You can place your order and collect your free DVD from one of Planes TV's 2 black marquees near the Fly Navy Heritage Trust tent and near the far end of the trade area towards the static aircraft displays. Just look out for the Planes TV DVD flag. You can also order using your mobile phone. Text DVD to 78070. You will pay £1.50 deposit towards the cost of the DVD, plus your normal network charge. Plains TV will get back to you to complete the order. That number again, text DVD to 78070. So, Alan Wade, about to clear the runway in the course. We turn now to the next of our international guests, and very welcome indeed, representatives from the Polish Air Force, one of that Air Arm's aerobatic teams, and Lieutenant Ariel Adamski is here to talk you through their display.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of pilots, I have the pleasure to invite you to watch the show of the aerobatic team Orlik. My name is Lieutenant Ariel Adamski, and I will do my best to comment the show for you. While waiting for them as they start the performance, I would like to give you some details about our team. All began 18 years ago in our home base in Poland, when 4 pilots started special training. Very soon, the 5th pilot joined as a solo. After 100 training flights, the team presented for the first time at Fairford in 1998. Since then, they have given over 200 displays in Poland and abroad. The name of the aerobatic team Orlik derives from the name of the aircraft PZL-130 Orlik, which is the Polish double-seat turboprop trainer used for the basic and intermediate training of cadets. It's equipped with the Canadian Pratt & Whitney PT6 engine. It's not easy to become a member of the aerobatic team. The active display pilots admit new members to the group. The basic criteria for admission are high flying skills and trust, because pilots must have confidence in one another. All members of the aerobatic team are instructor pilots for cadets from Polish Air Force Academy. It demands absolute devotion and engagement from the pilots, as team flying is not their However, doing it is definitely their greatest passion. They just can't imagine life without it. Look to the right. There are 5 planes coming towards us. They will demonstrate the loop with 90 degrees direction change. Loop. This time it will be finished with a split, hold, wait for it. The cascade.
It doesn't lose its value.
Jordanian split.
So the Orlik Polish designed, Polish built and Polish flown aircraft are about all to vacate the runway and taxi back to their parking spot on the apron just to the right of our commentary position.
So we've got about an hour and 20 of the flying display still to come. The B-17 display should be arriving shortly. We'll then recover the MiG-15 and then we're into some homegrown talent. So we've got the maritime roll demo featuring the links and
a little faster than anticipated, so in it comes to land. This is the aircraft from the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron.
And you don't just have to.
Fortress Sally B. What a beautiful sight against those dark clouds. This is now Europe's only remaining B-17 in airworthy condition. It's operated from the flying memorial to the circa 79,000 Allied airmen who were killed in the European theatre of operations in World War II, 27,000 of whom belonged to the US 8th Air Force alone. And in the European theatre, it was the 8th Air Force that flew the B-17s and B-24 Liberators on those enormously hazardous daylight raids over occupied Europe. The 8th Air Force, largely based in East Anglia, and around 2,000 of the B-17s and B-24s that flew from those parts between 1942 and 1945 were lost. It's no wonder this aircraft's operator, Ellie Sallingboe, describes Sally B. It was 1975. It's been a TV and film star many times, not least in the Catherine Weiler and David Putnam adaptation of Memphis Belle, and it's featured in many important commemorative displays and flypasts. And the fact it's achieved all of this is incredible when you consider that operating an aircraft like this in private hands is such an expensive business. The B-17G model that we see here. Members, supporters club, around 6,000 of them, all around the world. All their funds go towards Sally B and its continued preservation in Britain as a flying memorial to the mighty 8th and the rest of the Allied heavy bombing effort during World War II. In Ellie Sallingboe's words, the aircraft's mission is to pay tribute to those who gave their lives for the freedom of Europe, a sacrifice that must never be forgotten. Sally B itself, as I said, a B-17G model that was built by the Lockheed Vega plant in Burbank, California. It was delivered to the US Army Air Force to simulate 2 damaged engines, is always dedicated to the members of the Sally B Supporters Club. more about the Supporters Club and join up yourself at www.sallyb.org.uk, where there's much more information on the aeroplane. And there it is, touching gently down. Captained today by Dutchman and KLM Captain Peter Kuipers. He's a superb exponent of multi...
It is the enemy ship. They have fired a surface-to-air missile at the Wildcat. Here come the Lynx to destroy the target. Lynx 1's about to conduct an aggressive wing over to reposition to fire a Sea Skua missile. Both things now in position to fire. The Lynx have deployed a single Sea Skua each and hit the target with devastating effect. They sit in the hover using their sensors to see if their attack has worked, before the Wildcat rejoined the scene again to conduct damage assessment. The Wildcat have now conducted their damage assessment, and success! A fresh divot has been created on the airfield. The aircraft will now join together to create a diamond formation as they head away from us before completing their final manoeuvre. And while they reposition, I'll tell you a bit more about 815 Naval Air. Climb the nose over is Lieutenant Commander Matt Booland and Lieutenant Steve Aiken. I'll now sign off and let you enjoy the final manoeuvre. Thank you for your attention. Enjoy the rest of your day.
They're now to land. We up the noise levels for the next and penultimate display item from the Royal Air Force, because it is the Eurofighter Typhoon, which will be flying in direct from elsewhere, displaying and departing. And then we close the show with the Jungly Assault, the typical Yeovilton finale. We saw the helicopters getting airborne to our right-hand end. They will be returning to provide the last act of an excellent International Air Day 2016. I'm sure many of you will want to buy the DVD. Plains TV have been here recording all day for the official Yeovilton Air Day DVD and Blu-ray. 5 cameras on the ground, in-cockpit cameras in some of the display aircraft. You get a free DVD to take away with you today if you advance order. The DVD... level into an inverted pass. Pace slowing a little now and the power coming off as the undercarriage comes down. You can see the landing lights on. Slowly positioning for a barrel roll gear down. Multi-role combat aircraft, equally as effective in the air-to-ground as in the air-to-air roles. Outside turn there, the run pushing to the pilot's head. Negative G. Typhoon squadrons are at constant readiness on so-called QRA, reaction alert duties, ready to scramble at a moment's notice and go after any unidentified aircraft. High speed pass now, 580 knots, 100 feet. Those aircraft may be, for instance, Russian bombers probing the edges of UK airspace, or it could be an airliner with which communication has been lost or otherwise couldn't be established. The aircraft's capabilities being enhanced all the time that it's in service. The latest upgrade standards now beginning to come online for what of course was originally a four-nation programme, the UK, Germany, Italy and Spain. Now also in service with the Royal Saudi and Austrian Air Forces. Now another change of pace. Slow pass with gear down. Turning on to the A-axis along the runway. And the landing gear up into the display line. Flight Lieutenant Mark Long, the display pilot for 2016 in his first season in that role. He is an instructor on number 29 Reserve Squadron, the Typhoon operational conversion unit at that was the squadron that pilots to fly this outstanding aeroplane. Maneuverability that we've seen throughout this display, which is now sadly coming towards its conclusion. Speed building for another pass in front of you and pulling up for 3 vertical rolls before departure. The Royal Air Force Eurofighter Typhoon FGR-4.
Flying for you today, ladies and gentlemen, we have 6 Merlin Mark III aircraft from 846 Naval Air Squadron. Those aircraft are commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Del Stafford, the CO of 846, Lieutenant Commander Jockey Wilson, the officer commanding our operational conversion flight, again here at Yeovilton, Lieutenant Commander Neil Davidson, possibly the oldest jungly pilot on the block, Lieutenant Commander Steve Boldy, the squadron training officer, Lieutenant Commander Ben McGreal, who's one of our flight commanders, Lieutenant Adam Spike, the squadron ops officer, and a range of pilots and air crewmen. I'll list them all as the day goes on, hopefully. You also see 2 Wildcat AH Mark I aircraft today. Those would normally be operated by the Commando Helicopter Force's Wildcat Battlefield Recce Helicopter Squadron, 847 Naval Air Squadron, but unfortunately they couldn't join us today, as they're in the United States of America on exercise with the US Marines. So we're now ably assisted by 652 Squadron, Army Air Corps. And finally, call sign Ugly, the Apache. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on in front of us? There appears to be some sort of terrorist attack. If you're in the front row, I'd be very, very careful. These look like a mean bunch. They look like they mean business. It'll be interesting to see how this pairs out. The track vehicle you see is a BV-206, which is operated by the Commando Helicopter Force, so that we can operate across all terrains in Norway. But it seems to be stolen by some terrorists. All seems to have gone quiet, but it would appear that our terrorists here are looking to take a hostage. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're on the front row, please be very, very careful. Seems to be some activity going on the south side of the airfield as well. Poseidon's beard, what was that? Don't panic too much, ladies and gentlemen, it's all part of the show. The terrorist group seems to have set off some form of improvised explosive device. Mayhem is ensuing, but don't fear. Here come the helicopter heroes. 6 Merlins, 2 Wildcats, a Hawk, and an Apache are coming over the horizon and trying to deter these unsavory individuals. passes overhead, it doesn't look like they've had the desired effect. Whilst they might have knives between their teeth, they don't appear to have deterred the enemy. But by a stroke of genius, these aircraft are loaded full of brave Royal Marines from 3 Commando Brigade Royal Marines, and they're tooled up and ready for action. The local Air Operational Commander has decided to insert these troops from Bravo Company 40 Commando to take these terrorists out and stop their evil action. The troops from 40 Commando are based only an hour down the road at Norton Manor Camp in Taunton. Bravo Company is led by Major Tom O'Keefe and is made up of 70 Royal Marines who've not long returned from a large multinational combat exercise in Belgium. Bravo Company, along with the rest of 40 Commando, will soon be deploying to the USA for exercise Black Alligator. But first, they'll be put into action. Via fast rope by the 2 aircraft, and the troops are now being supported by call sign Satan in the overhead. Looks like Satan's put in a strafing run to assist the troops there. You'll also have seen a crowd left a quad bike deployed from the ramp of the aftmost Merlin. The Royal Marines now take the fight to the enemy. On a side note, ladies and gentlemen, one of the troop commanders, Captain Tom Scott, has recently found himself single. So make sure all of you lovely ladies in the crowd keep your eyes on the left-hand cordon, as you may be lucky enough to get a toothy smile and a cheeky wink from the most eligible bachelor at RNS Yeovilton Air Day. On a further side note, or probably what we're here for, the fast roping that you saw is an excellent technique to deliver troops into a confined area. It was first developed in the 1950s during the Malayan conflict, where the Junglies, the Commando Helicopter Force, earned their nickname. Not a reflection on the crew, is manned by Warrant Officer Nash and Captain Blake from AAC Watersham, which I'm reliably informed is in Suffolk, not Norfolk. I barely escaped the dress rehearsal with my life, claiming that earlier on today. The Apache can be loaded with guided Hellfire missiles, rockets, and a good old 30mm cannon. In front of you, 4 Troop Bravo Company fire manoeuvre. Further assistance has been called for from the south. Let's see. Oh, it looks like a surface-to-air missile's trying to engage the Merlins. Luckily, the Jungly Merlin is well protected with an enhanced and very advanced defensive aid suite, which seems to have protected them from that enemy action. However, we need to do something about this in order to get more troops onto the ground to continue the fight. The troops are doing their best now to locate the position of the SAM, and we expect them to be calling in fast air very shortly. They've also called on the assistance of a Royal Navy unmanned aerial vehicle. You can't see it, it's in the overhead at great height and was launched from the Type 23 frigate off the south coast. They're trying to locate that SAM battery now and call in further fast air to neutralise it. In order to operate with Apache aircraft and fast air, the Joint Tactical Air Control will be flying straight. To lethal effect. Seems to be some interesting shenanigans going on crowd left, ladies and gentlemen. We saw that large green vehicle, the MAN SV, or support vehicle, that was driven onto the airfield at the start of this evolution. Seems to be trying to get away with a hostage. So we need to do something about that. And the Marines will be calling on support from the Wildcat battlefield reconnaissance helicopter. This variant of Wildcat is very similar to the one that you'd have seen operating as part of the Maritime Lynx roll demo, only this one isn't fitted with a radar. Has a sophisticated MX-15 electro-optic device in the nose and can be fitted with 50 cal machine guns and a range of sniper weapons. And they will be looking to approach from crowd left in order to conduct a vehicle interdiction against that large truck that was trying to take the casualty. Or should I say the hostage? We haven't got any casualties yet. So here we come from crowd left to Wildcat AH-1 conducting a vehicle interdiction. These particular aircraft are flown by Major King and Major Jones, 652 Squadron. And they'll be demonstrating how to hold a perfect hover, the sort of thing you just can't see. They appear to have stopped the vehicle, but the troops have called for further reinforcements. So a second wave of troops will be inserted via fast rope. These two, Commando 1 and Commando 2. Commando 1 operated by Lieutenant Colonel Stafford, Lieutenant Rowan, leading air crewman White and Warrant Officer Kinniburgh. With Commando 2, the second aircraft, with Lieutenant Commander Jockey Wilson in command, Lieutenant Commander Rich Bartram, the squadron's senior pilot and executive officer, and PO air crewman McGinty and Corporal Thompson, all Marines. understand they've also called in additional support with a further strafing run from Ugly, and here she comes in from crowd right. She's a mean looking piece of kit, and she's going to do some damage on this run to further unsettle and degrade the enemy's morale. Whilst that fire seems to have had the desired effect, the troops have requested further vehicles and supplies. So here we have, from crowd left, Commando 5, flown by Lieutenant Commander McGreal, with a Land Rover underslung beneath his aircraft. The Land Rover weighs about 2 tons, and when he drops it off, it will be up and running and ready to join the action, ready to move troops around as required, or be used to move enemy casualties off of the battlefield. In situ, Company Sergeant Major W02 O'Sullivan will take charge of the vehicle and use it as he sees fit. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I got a little bit confused earlier on. Those Wildcat AH Mark 1 weren't conducting vehicle interdiction operations, they were sniping, which is one of their many roles, providing top cover for the troops who are in contact. However, that large truck I spoke about does appear now to have taken a hostage, and the vehicle interdiction will ensue. We can't let our vehicle get away, so the future Robolinks, otherwise known as a Wildcat, will be called in to stop them. This tactic has been in existence for quite some time. It's proved very effective in the theatre of the Northern Ireland and Leinster. Effect, but just to be sure, I understand the troops have called in one final run from Satan, Arbor past the end. And here comes Satan now. Bombs away. Have some of that. With that final piece of ordnance and the sheer weight of fire and aggressiveness of Bravo Company, it would appear that the enemy are wrapping their hand in and running away. So the Merlins will be called in for extraction. Commando 1 will lead in and land on. Will he? No. It looks like the troops have secured the hostage on the flatbed of that wagon that was stopped by the Wildcat. Looks like Lieutenant Colonel Stafford is going to employ his winch in order to extract the casualties. As a naval helicopter, the Merlin is fitted with a rescue lift of up to 600 pounds. Significant number of people, but normally only 2 go down on the winch to Winchland. They go down to survivor and a certain situation. However, the winch can be used to casevac in operational theatres, to be used for source transfers as well. And in all naval aircraft, the winch will be used to conduct helicopter flight fueling. It was the capability to take fuel from a ship so to provide a fuel while not landing on. Quite useful when you're operating a large aircraft like the Merlin, and certain navies don't have a flight deck which is large enough to take the aircraft. Commando assault package reset in the vicinity of Yeovil out to the southwest. I'll give you some details about what we've been up to over the last couple of years. You may well notice that there are no Sea Kings here on display today. The mighty Sea King Mark IV left service earlier on this year with an epic fly past around the southwest of the UK. However, Merlin transition is in full swing now, and both 845 and 846 Naval Air Squadrons are now operating the Merlin Mark III helicopter that you saw displayed today. 846 Squadron formed up at Benson in Oxfordshire in October 2014, and they relocated back here to Yeovilton in March of 2015. Our sister squadron, 845 Naval Air Squadron, also now based here at Yeovilton, formed up at Benson in July of last year, and they relocated only this month, hence why they aren't flying for you today, but I'm sure they'll be back in the game next year. Of course, we've not just been transitioning aircraft types, we've been busy on exercise learning how to use it. 846 Squadron deployed to Norway in the January after they formed, and prior to that, only 2 weeks after the squadron had stood up, deployed to Jordan, in both cases to conduct environmental training, learning to operate in those harsh environments and the degraded visual environment caused by sand and snow. 845 Squadron have also followed a similar path. They formed, as I said, in July. They then headed out to the deserts of the United States, where they worked with the US Marine Corps and the US Air Force Combat Search and Rescue Cadre, and they too deployed to Norway in January of this year. 846 in the meantime have been conducting deck landing training, and both squadrons deployed together for the first time with the Merlin on exercise Griffin Strike in southwest Wales in April of this year. As I said at the start, 847 Squadron are busy in the United States conducting environmental training with their new Wildcat aircraft, having transitioned from the Lynx Mark VII. The Royal Marines that you see before you, assembling now from 40 Commando, have also been equally busy. As I say, they're just about to head out to the States on exercise Black Alligator. But as a corps, 3 Commander Brigade have been returning to their core role of littoral manoeuvre or amphibious operations, as have the Commander Helicopter Force. So, ladies and gentlemen, as 40 Commando form up before you, we look to set up for the finale of the Commando Assault. Aircraft approaching from stage left and stage right. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Junglies.
What a finale. Thank you to Lieutenant Commander Alan Petch for that great narrative during that event.
A splendid traditional finale to the Yeovilton Air Day. What a splendid afternoon it's been all round. A fantastic array of aircraft from the world over, international military and civil contributions, and terrific displays by the Royal Navy